So that is what Myles and his team of Phocas Software are all about. So Phocas Software is an organisation or a company that provides business intelligence, analytics and financial software solutions to mid-market businesses. Myles started off adulting, his adult life, as a biotechnologist. I don't even know what that means, but he quickly realised that he was more about the business than bacteria, and that was more his thing, and he founded Phocas in 2001. He's really passionate about transparency and was super interested in what Abhinav had to say in our earlier session as well. But passionate about transparency and how that permeates the company, the product, and even his leadership style. This approach has served Phocas really well over the years. Myles strongly believes that the key to a successful business is having the right team and empowering them to make the decisions. So, here to talk to us about how to build transparency while still growing your business with an entrepreneur mindset. Please welcome Myles Glashier. Don't swear, remember.
I won't swear, no swearing.
No swearing.
Oh, that's me again. I was born and raised in Sydney, Australia. That's what Sydney used to look like before global warming, when we used to have sunshine. I went to some unconventional schools, and I was breastfed till I was 3 years old. I'm not sure that's a normal topic at the Canterbury Tech Council, but I did realise there was a dairy company presenting next door. I wasn't going to use that one, but I have, so no taking it back. My mum used to often tell me this, that I was breastfed till I was 3, and I never really realised what the big deal was. Then I had children. I've got a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old, Wolfgang and Tiger Lily. We went for the conservative Australian names. And then I realised a 3-year-old is a walking, talking menace, and I understand what the deal was. But the reason I share this with you today is I find that sharing, being open, being honest, being transparent is a great way to build relationships, deep and meaningful relationships. It's also a great way to build a company culture, a constructive company culture that makes it far easier to scale and grow. So today I'm going to cover 3 things. I'm going to indulge myself and give you a little bit of my background and my journey. I'm again going to cover the benefits of transparency, beautifully moving on from Abhinav this morning, and hopefully share a couple of things that are useful that you might be able to use in your personal life or your business as well. Oh, and then at the end, Q&A, I'm actually going to I've got some of the folks from Phocas here as well who are going to come up, and you can ask them questions as well. So if you're putting questions into the app, they don't just have to be for me. As was mentioned, I studied biotechnology. I spent a lot of time looking at slime molds, Distiodylium discoideum. I don't remember why, to be honest. Probably because I was a pretty average scientist, but I did love the business and the technology side of things. I finished my degree, I think, when I was 21, and I did what all good biotechnologists do. I partied. Actually, I did party, but what I did, this is the first business I set up, and I actually was in Perth, Western Australia, moved from Sydney, and I set up a business doing legal research for pubs and nightclubs. So much fun. My office was above a pub. I did that for a year or so. It was great fun. I then went backpacking around the world. I was going to go backpacking for 2 years, see every country. I got to London, and I ran out of money within the first month. So I had to get a job. There was the end of my backpacking. Through university, like a lot of uni students, I did a lot of hotel work. So I thought I'll go into the hospitality industry, and I got a job running a hotel. No, not this hotel. This one here, the Raleigh Gardens Backpackers Hotel. Now this wasn't in Mayfair, like the Savoy, it was in Brixton. Who knows Brixton in London? Yeah, I mean, Brixton now is pretty cool, right? It's really funky and modern, and back in the late 90s, it was pretty rough. There were riots there. I was shot at a few times. And this Backpackers, I mean, it was falling apart, as you can see. It had bed bugs the size of Galapagos turtles there. It was absolutely a mess. But anyway, I worked there for a year and we turned it around. We did an amazing job. We cleaned it up. We were running at 140% occupancy. I can't tell you how. And we made a lot of money out of that. And had a lot of fun, but I was burnt out. It was a full-time job living on premises, so I was going to go then continue my backpacking for a year. But then this guy here, the best moustache in the whole of the United Kingdom, Paul McGee, he was the guy that owned the backpackers joint, and he was involved in the software industry. And he said, "Look, why don't you come? You're obviously a smart guy. We've had great fun. Why don't we set up a business together?" I said, "Great, but I'm going backpacking first." So I did my quick trip across the world. I went from Sydney to Tibet to Nepal, all overland. I could spend 2 hours doing that. I won't do that today. But then I got back to London. And we started working with manufacturing and distribution businesses in London and the UK. And what I found very quickly is the salespeople in those organisations, if you picture the warehouses up there, were really struggling to sell more because they didn't have access to data. In those days, in the late 90s, early 2000s, they got big elephant toilet rolls of reports that they'd have to sort of slip through like this. So I pulled my brother in and the two of us knocked up a really simple sales analytics tool to help people see their sales data. And it sold like hotcakes in the UK. It sold really fast. And I think the reason it sold fast was that, number one, it was simple to use. Again, in the early 2000s, a lot of people were just getting laptops for the first time, and so there weren't IT literate, so it had to be simple to use. It was lightning fast, and also we started selling it on a subscription basis, which I know now is really common, right? But back then, not many companies were doing it, so it was really easy to sell. And then it went from sales analytics to full business intelligence. We took it back to Australia, where I set up the business there. All bootstrapped, didn't get any investment. I moved to New York at the height of the financial crisis, almost killed myself there, but set up in the US. And that got us to where we are today. We're a business of about close to $70 million, 300 people, 3,000 plus customers. Our product suite's extended from business intelligence to financial planning, budgeting and forecasting. I'm not going to tell you anything more about Phocas now, more just to say that we've built this big global business and it's been a heck of a ride. But building a global business, as Abhinav was talking about, is bloody hard. I mean, building a global business in one location is bloody hard, let alone trying to build one across the world distributed with not a lot of money. And we've got people in Australia, in Sydney and Melbourne, in Orange, a beautiful country town. We've got people in Coventry, a big office there, in Reno, Nevada, in Southern California, and all over the US. And almost 100 people here in Christchurch now as we've built up a team in the last 2 years. And it must have been about 2016, and we were about 100 people, and we were really struggling. I found that, as a CEO, you cast a big shadow of the culture and leadership and performance. When I go to the US and be going really well, and then I come over to Australia, and then the US would fall down, then I go to the UK. So it was really hard to scale the business. And what we started to work out from our own selves, and as we spoke to people, we found that culture drives performance, but leadership drives culture. And so at that point, we said, okay, let's really figure out how the heck are we going to scale this business properly. We've got a great culture, but how do we actually scale it? So we started doing a couple of things. We codified our values, and we then looked at how do we measure it. And when I say codify, I mean that very loosely. A lot of organisations, I think, put honesty, respect, trust, etc., which no one remembers and is just table stakes. We really thought about what is the true spirit of our business. How do we actually act? And we came up with these 3 words: fun, fulfilling, forever. And I'll define it. What I like about this, it's simple, everyone remembers it, and you can interpret it your own way, but it's still true to the spirit of those words. So the fun to me is the work itself is fun. Yeah, I enjoy my job. On a Sunday night, I look forward to work on a Monday morning. There you go. There we go. And we only work on Mondays, and then too much transparency. The fulfilling is a nice balance to that. It's professionally rewarding. I've got a meaty, meaningful role. I'm learning and developing. And the forever, it doesn't literally mean forever, although we've been around for 20 years. Some of us are here forever. But it tends to mean what I've learned here, the experiences I've gained, the skills I've learned, the people I met. That is with me forever. So I think about a graduate that started in Sydney. He's now over in London as a senior manager. And one day he's going to be a CEO somewhere. And that really excites me. And I hope the things that he's learned, he takes with him forever as well. So that's the values that we built out. And it worked really well. And the thing about those values we found is they don't just apply to our people at Phocas. We feel they also apply just as much to our customers. It should be fun to use. We should be fun to work with. So it applies to our customers, it applies to our shareholders, to our partners, and also the planet and humanity. And I think it goes nicely with what we're talking about this morning, innovating for tomorrow. We're not just in business to make money, we actually consider all of these stakeholders. And recently we got a B Corp certified, so we do consider all of it. I got a thumbs up down there, thank you, front row. So we consider all of these stakeholders when we make a decision. Then we looked at measuring the culture, and some of you will be aware of the Human Synergistics OCI thing. The chairman of this company is a Kiwi. There's a lot of psychobabble around the outside that I don't understand, so I tend to simplify this. It's just a way of measuring culture. They sort of talk about three types: constructive, aggressive defensive, passive defensive. The aggressive defensive one's down the bottom. And this is similar to Abhinav was talking about this morning, below the line and above the line. So the aggressive defensive side tends to be very power, a lot of competition. You see a lot of sales organisations there and not a lot of sharing, funny enough. Down the bottom side, a lot of sort of avoidance. If anyone's from government, I'm sorry, but a lot of government organisations tend to be a bit down there. And then really where you want to be is in that constructive zone at the top there, right? And that really talks about achievement, so getting results, getting shit done. Self-actualising, so realising your potential as an individual. Honesty, openness, autonomy, freedom, flexibility, they're all the sort of things that we see on this constructive side. And the more we thought about that, the key to all of those was transparency, of being open about yourselves as individuals, but then open as an organisation about what we're doing. And so these are our results. So this goes back to 2016, where we started, because I was going, oh man, you know, things aren't quite right. Now that circumplex up there is actually pretty good. Like that is, compared to most companies, that's a really good circumplex. A lot of blue, the dominant types are up in the top there, but not perfect. And so we thought, how are we going to change this? And number one, we just thought, you know, I'm very transparent, as you've probably seen today. So double down on the transparency, being really open about our strategy and vision and over-communicating it, doing weekly updates across the whole company, and also really focusing on our leadership and leadership development and 360s. So we really worked on that. Then we remeasured again. And this was in 2019, and you can see, wow, we're super high up in the blue there. Now we won an award from Human Synergistics for they've never seen such a great, you know, cultural transformation so quickly there. We then doubled down on all of that. We started sharing more financial data, getting everyone in the business together, and then in 21, it even got better. And that's the thing I didn't believe. I had this belief that as you get bigger and larger and scale the business, the culture suffers. But actually, it was the opposite. We've actually improved the culture as we've got bigger. The nice thing about these circumplexes is you can chop them down. So that's the whole company, but I can look at by teams, by country. Hi, photographer. Thank you. So you could, for example, on the first circumplex, one of the big challenges we had was our UK business. The culture there wasn't as strong as the other businesses. And that was down to leadership. Now the challenge with that, the leader of that business was my co-founder. So that led to some really difficult and challenging conversations, but rather than being my opinion, we had the data to back it up, and that led to some really good changes, and I'm still in business with my co-founder today. You can also break it out by countries. So as I mentioned, so there's our New Zealand team in 2021, you know, during the COVID years, and you can see that's just ridiculously good. There's a tiny bit of oppositional there. I don't know what that is, Blair, but otherwise an incredibly strong results there as well. Now we'll measure again next year, and we'll see that team's gone from 20 odd people to 100, and so hopefully we'll see it progress like that as well. So the power of transparency, there's a bunch of, you know, things there, and I think hopefully you're drinking the Kool-Aid after Abhinav's and my chat today. You know, number one, it helps build a great culture. We talk about trust, commitment to the business. People feel like they're treated as adults, right? If you share everything out there, people then, the next few things to me are the biggest ones. If you give people all the information you need and you give them the trust and autonomy, they solve customer problems far better, far quicker, right? And you get better customer service. And all of that equals you hopefully a better, more successful, resilient company. In terms of scaling a business with transparency, I think the first bit I start is with the default position to me is share. Yeah, and so I think at Amazon they have the culture of innovation there. Their default position around innovation is you say yes. Yeah, and if you're going to say no, you have to build a case for no. What we do, I hope we do at Phocas. If you're going to say no, we're not going to share it. You have to build a case of why you're not going to share the information. We talked about sharing the vision, open and honest CEO updates, being as open as possible. We did a cap raise. We were bootstrapped to 2019. We did our first cap raise. We've done another one since, even in the crazy economic environment. And we share the IM, the investing around with everyone. People get shocked by that. The CFO report with all of the data goes out to all of the staff with our governance data. All they have access to the data themselves. The culture surveys we do. Most of the leaders share their 360 feedback as well, which is pretty juicy stuff. We have a failure award, so we celebrate, where we mess up and learn from that. But the big thing at the end there, the bottom one, is also not just sharing information us down. It's about a culture of everyone sharing. It's not the old days where work and business were separate. Funny enough, people's lives are not just work, right? So bring your whole self to work. You can be yourself at Phocas. And I think a great period of time was through COVID, right? Really tough, really tough period. We came out stronger. Definitely than we went in, and we were meeting every morning, we were sharing all the information. It was a tough emotional time for people, right? And people were showing up on Zoom, and it was okay to not show up. It was okay to show up in tears or whatever it might be, and I think that was a really good time. But we did have some fun, and I by default try and share everything with my team. And I think it was 2020, the Easter holidays, we're all in lockdown. I think you were in lockdown here as well, I'm not sure, definitely in Sydney we were, and we've been doing homeschooling, which was pretty tough. And then what was even, at least we had something to do, right? And then we had school holidays that locked at home, and I thought, what the hell are we going to do? So we decided we were going to go on holidays anyway, and I shared this with the company. We were going to go on holidays anyway, but we're going to do it at home. So first of all, we went to Paris. That's Wolfgang and Tiger Lily. So that was day one, and we thought, we'll do something the next day. We put it on social media. It started to get a lot of attention because everyone's on social media, right? You've got nothing else to do apart from drink gin and tonics. And then we went to New Zealand, funny enough, and this is the true order of what we did. After New Zealand, that was my favourite. We're actually, I took my family to the US for 3 months just recently as I was working and doing some work over there. We managed to go to that exact ride on Disneyland, which was awesome. I didn't take my daughter on it though, because it's actually bloody scary. After Disneyland, we went to Vegas. My favourite is Donald Trump and the Tiger King down the bottom left there. Cage diving in South Africa. Now, by now, it's starting to get a lot of traction on social media, and my wife started to go, this is great fun, and it started to take up our lives. We're out in the Great Barrier Reef doing some fishing. I actually got stuck in that bucket, and there's a great video of me trying to get out. Off to France, to Bordeaux, Saint-Emilion, to tell us that thing. Easter Island. We actually did those potatoes 5 days before, so they aged a bit to get the look. But obviously safari in South Africa. Back to the US, to New York. I still don't know what we're thinking on this one. I think it's the Arctic, although I don't think there's penguins in the Arctic, so there's a polar bear. But anyway, we were sled riding somewhere. The Vatican. By now the kids were getting fed up with this because our whole day, our whole life was there. I particularly like Woody up on the wall, but anyway. And then we came to New Zealand again and we went skydiving in Queenstown. But we obviously eventually had to come home. I quite like the toilet seats on the windows. So the deal was we had to make everything at home. Anyway, I shared that more because I shared it with the company. It was a bit of fun, and more because it was a bit of fun, really. So how are we going? 3 minutes. I'm going to bring the team up shortly. Is that it? Oh, come on up then, guys. Let's go. We'll talk about, there are some pitfalls to transparency, but let's talk to the team. I mean, I've shared my journey. I've shared sort of some of the benefits and how to scale a business with some transparency. But I thought far better to not just let me answer questions, but you can answer questions of any of the team here. We've got Ella, who was a graduate or now a programmer. We've got Scott, a demand generation, Blair, our Chief Product and Technology Officer. We've got Bill, a product manager at BNF, and Gary, our Head of Product as well. So we're all here to answer your questions.
I love it. Put a question in the chat if you want one. One of the questions: do you share your salary bands?
We don't, and we're just talking about this today. I would love to share salary bands.
All right. Is the rest of the team nodding? Is everyone going, yeah, let's do it? No, we've got a no on the end. Yeah. Absolutely not. Do not share what I make.
It is interesting, right? Because I was talking to Adam about it today, as he said this morning, it's polarising that, and it's polarising here. I would love to do it. I've got some executives and board members that don't. As a 20-year-old company, it's really hard. If I started a company tomorrow, I'd do it by default. I'm still trying to find a way to get it in, but we don't at the moment.
So one of my questions is what Myles has said actually true? Are you that good? There's a lot of blue in that diagnostic tool.
Yeah,
it's true.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I'd say we were at the Christmas party.
Thanks, Jacob.
The Christmas party recently, and I was chatting at the Christmas party saying thanks to people. And one of the things I literally said to the entire team there was, isn't it great that we can all bring our full selves to the team, to the company, bring us all there? And that was what got the clap around the audience. That was what people really enjoyed, the fact that we can really do that. It's great.
Any other comments on that?
I'd definitely echo that. I've been with the company just about 5 months now, and I've known Nikki, who's the HR recruiter, for a while, and she was posting camera shots. Oh, it's great that Phocas can let us be out and do walks, and I'm like, I've seen the cool lad before, and then ended up joining, and I was like, oh wow, actually they do really live the culture that they say and expose on the outside. So
the Kool-Aid is real.
The Kool-Aid, it's drinkable.
If you remember, we had one thing that was red that sort of came out a bit sort of oppositional.
It was Blair, apparently.
Yeah, one Blair.
Oh, you're Blair. It was you.
But it's really healthy. You want people to actually be able to bring up different views and feel comfortable doing that. So having some of that's actually a really good
thing. If Myles could do one thing better, it's not my question. I'm asking for a friend. If Myles could do one thing better, what could he do? Like, how do you still keep making it better instead of going, well, we're the best we can be, we're heaps of blue, like, let's just carry, like...
This is feeling really hot.
Don't pass the hot, no, you've got it, Blair. Well, you're the red-green guy, so... Just one thing.
Yeah, I'd say, and it's not something he's not necessarily doing, but I think it goes back to what Arp and I've said as well, is around keep testing and keep challenging, because we can't just stay as we are. We've got to keep challenging the norm.
Anyone else want to tell Myles in front of 350 people what he could be doing better? It's just an improvement. It's not to say it's shit.
I'll go straight to it.
This is like a live 360 review. I'm loving this.
So we're having great challenges as a company, as you do as you grow, around globalisation. So we've all have a different challenge around a team that's grown up in a certain area, and we're trying to connect those teams, and the transparency makes a massive difference for that. But what we sometimes lack a little bit is figuring out how we can make sure the transparency from within one team to within another team can happen. And so the transparency of the company is amazing. Like I've mentioned before, the CFO report that comes up, the first time, that was my first, hang on, we're actually doing this, it's not just a talk. When I got the entire CFO report, the entire board report, and a few of the people on my team are professional accountants. So that was a lot of fun. We sat around a coffee table and had a good chat. But there is challenge to bring transparency from all layers of the business when it's distributed, and I think that's the next step, how we do that.
And something you just keep naturally working on all the time. We're getting flashed at in red, which is, I feel like that's a danger sign, where they're like, shut it down. Thank you very much. A massive thank you to your team and these guys. That was a great presentation. I loved it. Yeah, share those with people. Now we're going to move rooms. So we've got the fabulous Ali Archer on exploring connections in here and reimagining convergence. And Matthew from Datacom talking about cyber, I haven't even been drinking, cyber security in the next room. So we're going to do a quick change as fast as you can. Switch around.